Right now, we're but 1 hour away from parts of President Donald Trump's travel ban going into effect. Visitors from some 6 countries will be denied visas unless they can prove they have family here in the United States. No deal yet. Doesn't look like Republicans will meet their Friday deadline to come up with a new version of a GOP healthcare bill. And the president under attack tonight by his own party for tweets some are calling disgusting, crude, and sexist. Hello, I'm Bruce Johnson. Thanks for joining us for Off Script. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Going off script tonight on health care, president's tweets, Russia, a lot of other things. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. Senator, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you, Bruce.
Always good to see you. Let me ask you first about health care. Where do we stand as you understand it? Are the Republicans going to come up with a revised bill before the July 4th recess?
Well, they couldn't get the votes to proceed yesterday, but Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership is working hard to twist arms, use every trick in the book to try to get the majority. The problem is they're trying to sell the American public a bill that the American public knows is bad for America's health care. That's why only about 12% of Americans support it. And the more people see it, the more they hate it. It knocks tens of millions of our fellow Americans off of affordable health care. It allows insurance companies to, again, discriminate based on pre-existing conditions, all to give a tax cut to very wealthy people.
And Mitch McConnell said that he doesn't want to sit down with Democrats and forge a fix to Obamacare, as some Republicans, John McCain and some others, are suggesting you might do. That's not likely to happen, is it? Because of partisan politics and everybody with their backs up against the wall?
Well, they've been doing this in secret. I will say, a lot of us have said if they want to focus not on blowing up the Affordable Care Act, but improving those parts that can use some improvement, especially the exchanges, there's some very practical things that we can do to help bring down premiums and co-pays and that kind of thing. But that has not been their goal so far. Their goal, again, has been dramatic cuts to health care, to give tax cuts to wealthy people. Warren Buffett was on the other day just saying, yeah, you know, I don't need a $670,000 a year tax cut if it means people are going to get less affordable care.
So what happens? What happens if they do nothing, or are they in position to do nothing?
Well, I'm hoping when they go home over the 4th of July break, they'll hear from their constituents at the parades and the barbecues, and they'll come back and say they're not going to proceed with blowing up the Affordable Care Act. Then we do welcome the chance to do some common sense things to improve the exchanges. But that's minor surgery. That's not blowing things up. I mean, one example of what we could do that's actually very significant would be to create a public option or a Medicare for all option within the exchanges. That means no matter where you live in the country, you have a plan, and it will drive down costs because it creates competition. Okay,
the president likely to meet with Vladimir Putin, Russia's leader, next week. Is he likely to bring up what everybody else here is talking about, the Russian interference in our election, the hacking?
Well, he should be. I mean, he should tell Putin that there's a price to pay for the Russians trying to undermine our democratic process here. Unfortunately, really until this week, in a tweet, President Trump has never even recognized what every single American intelligence agency has recognized.
Is he going to approve the sanctions at a bipartisan vote we got up there on the Hill?
You know, you're exactly right. On a big bipartisan vote, the Senate passed a bill to impose sanctions on Russia for its interference in our elections. We've been hearing that the Trump administration is going to try to stop the passage of that bill. They're calling upon the House not to pass it. That's a huge mistake. What that says to Vladimir Putin is, go ahead and interfere in elections, and we won't do anything. That's a big mistake. It's a big mistake for us and for our allies.
What do you think about what everybody else is talking about today, the president's tweet? Something he didn't have to do first thing in the morning. It's what everybody is talking about. What do you think personally? And then what are the women in your life saying about it, in your office, in your family? And
you know, it's nasty. It's mean. It's unbecoming the office. It's the kind of thing that you'd be embarrassed to tell your children about. And I will tell you, women and men in our office are appalled that the President of the United States would send out this gross, disgusting, personal tweet. That is not how any president, regardless of party, should conduct himself or herself. But in this case, you've got somebody who really just sometimes drops to the lowest of the low. And this was, unfortunately, unfortunately, it's the kind of thing we've come to expect from Donald Trump, and that's what's really sad.
And what is the residual impact, if you will? I mean, is it hampering getting legislation, anything done up there, or is it just this sideshow? Are we making too much of it?
Well, it's hard to ignore it when the President of the United States acts that way, so crudely. And so it's hard to ignore. I do think it diminishes the president and the presidency, and in that sense probably makes it more difficult for people to support the president and his agenda. I mean, after all, the president is trying to get these Republicans, for example, to support a health care bill, which, by the way, you know, after that celebration in the Rose Garden, he, behind closed doors, said the House bill was mean. Yeah. But nevertheless, he's getting on the phone, he's trying to get them, and then he does this kind of stuff, and it makes it harder for them in many ways. Right. And again, it demeans the presidency of the United States.
Senator Chris Van Hollen, Maryland, thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming in.
Good to be here.